Like it or not, a Harry Potter reboot has officially been announced by Warner Bros. Given the current state of modern film and television, you may not have faith in Warner Bros' ability to produce a good Harry Potter project, and I might agree. But regardless, it's happening, and it's going to be a massive success. The supposed Harry Potter reboot is said to be coming to us via streaming on Max. The show is said to have a quote, decade-long run, and will feature an all-new cast. Supposedly, the show will be following the story of each book per each season. Therefore, if the show is a success and people tune in to watch it, the show should run for 7 seasons. Over the last few years, we've been given a number of big-budget television shows via streaming, such as the Marvel shows on Disney+, Rings of Power on Amazon Prime, House of the Dragon on HBO Max, and others, many of which have not been received well by audiences. Rings of Power and a number of the Marvel shows in particular, and for good reason. That being said, why is it that I think the Harry Potter reboot will be a massive success? Well, there's a few reasons for this. Reason number one being Warner Bros. Discovery's new CEO, David Zaslav. Zaslav spoke about his desire to reboot the Harry Potter franchise back in late 2022, before it was officially announced. At the Q3 earnings call, he was quoted as saying, quote, "We're going to have a real focus on franchises. The DC movies, the Harry Potter movies. We still have the rights to do Lord of the Rings movies, one of the big advantages we have." He continues, "You focus on the big movies, the tentpoles that people are going to leave early from dinner to see," end quote. So Zaslav is ambitious. However, it's clear that he sees these franchises as money on the table. However, as we've seen with a number of reboots in the last few years, you have to do right by the audience. If you don't, you'll end up alienating them. This has been largely apparent with franchises such as Lord of the Rings. Amazon spent a large sum of money to acquire the rights to make the Rings of Power, and then spent even more money producing the show. However, fans were left disappointed and largely disgusted by what they did to Tolkien's world. Frankly, what they created wasn't Tolkien's world at all. However, when it comes to Warner Bros., these franchises he's referring to are properties that they already own. They would still have to pay to produce the content, but it's not as big of a risk given that they don't have to pay to acquire the rights. Disney paid however much money to acquire the rights to Star Wars, for example, and The Force Awakens performed really well at the box office. But then they made a number of Star Wars shows and films that fans weren't too fond of, and they'll be hard-pressed to convince fans to return to check out the new content. Given that they paid however much money just to acquire the rights, Disney has more to lose. See, Warner Bros. Could produce a crappy Harry Potter show, but people have to at least show up to determine its quality. Therefore, Warner Bros. Capitalizing on the IPs they already own is mostly risk-free, save the money they invest to produce the content. You may not like the fact that major production companies are taking our beloved films of the past and rebooting them, often changing them. However, it can't be denied that these do make money. The live-action Aladdin reboot made over $1 billion. The Lion King reboot, $1.6 billion. And in terms of David Zaslav, his efforts are focused on making Warner Bros. Discovery profitable again by looking at the most profitable franchises of the past and giving us more of them. So yeah, Zaslav is a money guy, and this is even more apparent when you look at all the shows and films he's cancelled upon being appointed as CEO. He slashed anything and everything he deemed a risk. In the months encompassing these cuts being nicknamed the Acts of Zaslav, projects such as The Wonder Twins, Raised by Wolves, Scoob 2, Holiday Haunt, Batgirl, and others have either been cancelled or will never see the light of day. Surprisingly, a number of these projects were already completed or in post-production, and still, Zaslav wiped them clean. Warner Bros. Is not a company that can afford to take risks at the moment, unlike, say, Disney or Amazon Studios. Zaslav isn't interested in pandering to the Hollywood elites. He's not afraid of rubbing people the wrong way. He wants to pander to the audience that's already there. Harry Potter fans, DC fans, Lord of the Rings fans. And given the current state of Warner Bros. Discovery, I tend to agree with these decisions. That doesn't mean I think the Harry Potter reboot will be good. Remember, this video isn't about it being good, it's about it being a success. That being said, Warner Bros. Has done a few things recently that give me hope. House of the Dragon being the obvious one, putting the right people in the right places to make a damn good show, which as of late, the competition seems to be struggling to do. but also the hiring of James Gunn as co-CEO of DC Studios. Upon his appointment as co-CEO, Gunn made some pretty interesting comments. Quote, "People have become beholden to release dates, to getting movies made no matter what. I'm a writer at heart and we're not going to be making movies before the screenplay is finished. I've seen it happen again and again and it's a mess," end quote. It's comments like this that show me that Gunn has a true understanding of the creative process and he was a good choice for the job. Gunn has never made an overtly critical comment about working with Marvel, but given this quote and given that he's been working with them for the last 10 years, I tend to believe that Disney Marvel may possibly be the catalyst for these comments, especially given how lazy and non-cohesive their last few films and shows have been. But either way, Gunn is a creative who gives me hope for the superhero genre, and he's taken his talents over to Warner Bros. I guess we'll see what comes of it. Another reason I tend to believe that the Harry Potter reboot will be a success is J.K. Rowling's attachment to the project. Rowling has been all over the news lately, so given that I'm sure you've heard about this, I'll keep this brief. She made some, quote, anti-trans remarks. She's a feminist and she said something about wanting to protect women's spaces such as sports and bathrooms, which is perfectly reasonable, but they took this and ran with it. A seemingly small but surprisingly vocal group of people tried to start a boycott for Hogwarts Legacy the video game, given that Rowling would be receiving royalties on its success. Suffice it to say, the game sold phenomenally well, 15 million copies and $1 billion to be precise. Some would say that the not-so-negative press drove sales, and perhaps it did. But I would say that the game was simply fantastic, and role-playing as a Hogwarts wizard is something that people have wanted to do for a long time. Either way, the internet really had Rowling's back on this one. Rowling is said to be an executive producer on the upcoming Harry Potter reboot, and I tend to believe that once again, fans will have her back. She wrote all of those books by herself. The world she created is beloved, and regardless of how you feel about her, I believe that her involvement in the project is a big win on Warner Bros. Part. Lastly, I think the show will be a massive success because people love Harry Potter. People like myself grew up on those books and films, and my son's finally at the age where he can start to appreciate them, and we just watched Sorcerer's Stone. That being said, the movies aren't that old, and I don't see any reason why people who feel a need to re-watch or re-enjoy the world of Harry Potter can't just go back and watch the original films or even read the books. However, I still believe that there is a market for this reboot. Disney just announced a live-action reboot of Moana, which literally came out 7 years ago. So what's stopping Warner Bros. From doing the same? Well, that's the video, everybody. Please subscribe. I really love making these and I'd like to keep making them, so please subscribe and like the video. If you stuck around this long, I thank you for watching. Have a great day.